Welcome to Feed Your Lion. I'm Dr. L.I.O.N, and I'm here to aid you in the mastery of total health, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, and financial. So prepare to have your wellness tank filled up with this podcast. Welcome to another episode of Feed Your Lion podcast. I'm really excited today because we've got Monica Brant all the way from San Antonio, Texas, and I'm super excited. She's coming this weekend. She's doing a boot camp for all of our ladies down in the basement, and we're having a little seminar and a nice dinner tomorrow night. So really excited to have you. Yeah, this is it's awesome. Monica is a superstar in the fitness industry. She's been on like every cover of Muscle and Fitness and everything you can think of. So super excited to have you. Thank you for coming and agreeing to do the podcast with me because that's awesome. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, Jodelle, for having me and bringing me here. And I'm excited to be here. It's an honor to get to travel. It's funny, I'm on a group text with my cousins, and I've got 5 in Maryland, and so I'm on a group text with all of them and their mom, and so I'm always involved in all the things that they're doing. And so today I posted a picture and just said, "Hey, heading to Kentucky. Good morning to everyone, and sending love, whatever." And they're like, "Oh, sounds great. Safe travels." And my one cousin, she's like, "Why are you going into Kentucky?"
Yeah, what's there?
In Kentucky? I go, "Somebody wants me here."
Yeah, you're being modest with that. I think a lot of you would have you. It's not that far of a drive to Maryland, though. It's only a few hours. So if you had more time, you could stop and say hi to your cousin.
Well, we're supposed to be seeing them in July.
Okay,
so
that's good.
We're gonna make a little trip out to see all of them. But it was just kind of funny. She's like, "What? Why are you going to Kentucky?"
Yeah. It's a weird place to go,
right?
Well, I want to start a little bit because you are in the horse state right now, and you and your husband Brad do a ton with horses, yes. And so if you want to talk a little bit about that, because you were doing that even before the whole fitness thing, right?
Well, I grew up out in the country. My mom was a horse trainer, so we had 20 acres, and we had our own barn on our property, and we had our own horses, but we also trained. So my mom was training and gave them lessons. And when I was in my teens, of course, I started horse showing and everything as a young kid. But when I was in my teens, I actually started on the summers giving riding lessons. Wow. So I was making $20 an hour. This is back in the 80s, so it was pretty good.
That's good money.
And I had a couple horses that would come in during the summer, and I would work with them on just very basic things. So I got paid to train horses as a kid, too. It was fun. And then I ended up, when I graduated high school, I got a small scholarship to one of the only of 2 schools in the States that had an equestrian science department.
Okay.
Nowadays, you've got NCAA with equestrian teams like throughout the whole country. So it's pretty big now. But back then, there was only 2 colleges. It was a fine arts college in Missouri.
Okay.
And I had a little horse scholarship, and I was taking, regular classes the freshman takes, and then with the horse deal I was jumping.
That's awesome.
So that's my favorite, is jumping, but
yeah,
we don't do that right now.
No, but you were saying
I jump on the horses, but I don't know. I jump on and I jump off, but we don't go over jumps.
You don't jump boards or anything.
No, unfortunately.
So you said your husband now, he does like the show when the various tricks that they're doing, right?
I like that, tricks. Yes.
That's so not appropriate.
He's gonna like that cowboy doing tricks.
Horse like what is the appropriate word for show?
Just what you said, show. No, yeah.
Show. Okay.
So
go there.
He specializes in quarter horse breed, and there are shows throughout all of the world, actually, for quarter horses. So he has traveled to judge and do clinics in other countries as well. But yeah, so he travels all around the United States to horse shows, just like I did with the bodybuilding fitness industry, going to bodybuilding shows, right?
Yeah.
So you pack up the trailers and you haul a bunch of horses and you drive to wherever. So he's in Ohio. Mostly he goes to Ohio, Oklahoma, Vegas, Arizona, Florida, of course in Texas. And those are the primary locations. He's been to a couple other little places here and there, but those are the primary places that he goes to show. And he shows all year long, and all of our clients own the horses are all owned by clients, and then he trains them, and then he trains the person how to ride the horse and how to show the horse, and
Yeah.
so the older people, usually it's a hobby and it's something they do for fun. Like one of our older clients, she's a select, so that means over 50, and she does it for fun. Her husband is a big hunter.
Okay.
And he goes to countries and, like South Africa. He hunts rhinos and all kinds of crazy stuff. But he does it with a group that actually takes all of that animal, and the people that live there actually use it.
Yeah.
So it's a sport for him. And then for her, she comes and shows horses with us.
Nice.
So it's, but then we have with the NCAA, we have a lot of youth riders that want to ride on a team in college.
What's the NCAA stand for? I'm not.
Well, it's basically the same organization that would be like college, university football.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, what's it called? National champion.
Yeah. Okay. I got you. Okay. So when you,
I hope I said that right.
it's okay.
It's college sports.
I got you. So it's in the same bracket as that. I got you.
Yes.
Okay.
And they do have like the scouts come and start looking at the kids at a young age.
You were talking about that.
Right?
I didn't know that was a thing.
One of our girls started with Brad at 11, and by the time that was all going, she ended up being the number one draft choice. Draft for the whole country. So
I did not know they had like an equestrian draft program like that. Like you told me that in the car on the way, and I was like, I had never heard of that before.
Yeah,
so
so
that's
much has
interesting.
changed since-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well-
I mean, that's probably what I would have tried to do too when I was a kid. Although they have 4 riding events at the universities, 2 Western and 2 English.
Okay, and that's like how you're on the saddle style wise,
Right,
or okay.
right. There's 2
I got
events.
something right.
Yeah, you did. They do tricks in the saddles. So there's 2 Western. There's 2 Western events in Western saddles, and there's 2 English events in English saddles.
Gotcha. Okay, well that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So starting, I'll like switch it a little to fitness, since that's like the main thing we're doing. But like when you started, you were a runner initially, right?
I was track.
You were
track
doing-
and field, a sprinter. Still am. I still get on the track and do my sprint workouts.
Yeah.
Because I'm ready to go back. I competed in my 40s. I competed in the USATF Masters sprint division. So I was doing track and field around the country, and then I went and ran at the World's Masters track meet in 2013 down in Brazil, and came back with some awards from that. And then I went right after that and got on stage. Or did I get on stage first? I think at that year I was getting ready for the World's track meet, and so all year long competing in track. And then I thought, well, I'll just throw in a fitness show, a figure show. And so it was timed right perfectly, because I trained all year with track. So I was on the track 5 days a week and in the gym twice a week. It was awesome. That was it.
Really?
Yeah. And then so I got my show. My show came up first that year, that timing, and it was, say, beginning of September. And then the track meet for the Worlds was at the end of September or beginning of October. So it was a good 4 or 5 weeks after. So I didn't have to worry about my being super lean and trying to run 400, being super lean. It's when you're that depleted. I got to space out my training a little bit. It worked out perfectly. I got to go to both, and I ended up winning the show in 2013. That was WBFF World's Championships.
Wow.
In figures.
That's amazing.
Those were some of my favorite training and competing. I did it again in 2016, and that was my last shows in 2016. But I trained like that, and in 2016 I was also doing American Ninja Warrior stuff and Spartan racing, and so in track. So I was doing all of that.
All of it.
Getting ready for my shows. It was so fun to do the variety.
Did that because most of the time when you're thinking of the fitness stuff shows, you don't hear as much in the track or doing ninja stuff, like warrior stuff. That's a totally different. Do you
Different
feel
type
like
of
that?
training.
Yeah. Do you feel like that helped, or
It helped me because I feel like my symmetry was pretty similar. Like everything, I didn't feel like I needed to do one thing or more. And with all of the stuff in the Ninja Warrior, you're doing so much upper body.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've always had bigger legs and my upper body, so It worked out really well. Like everything I did was powerful with my legs because you have to run hard to get up the wall. And I was still on the track doing sprints. So I didn't have to do a lot in the gym per se. I only had specific exercises in the gym that I would go do, and then my workouts were primarily at the track and the ninja training and then the obstacle course stuff. So
I think that's neat because you did have like a lot of like functional and just what you did with those.
Too.
Like, I mean,
because it was at that point I'd been, doing the competitive thing, the modeling thing, all of that for almost 25 years.
Yeah.
So it was really fun to do what I wanted to do and be how I, prepare how I wanted to prepare.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you, what was your favorite track sprint? Like what distance?
Ooh, I'm a 4, 2, and 1.
Okay.
And my getting back into my 40, when I was in my 40s, getting back into track because I hadn't competed in track since high school.
Yeah.
And, but I started running and I ended up doing a 400 meter invitational at the Olympic trials in Oregon, and they brought the masters in for these exhibition races.
Yeah.
And so I was invited that year to come onto that track and do the exhibition for the women's 400. And you had to have a 64 second to qualify. So I was running and I ended up having I came in the 5th position, and when I ended the race I was in 3rd, so I came in 3rd. And I ran a 59:76.
Wow.
So I love the 400.
Okay.
I love to hate it.
Yeah.
Oh, it makes you just feel strong. I make myself do 400 still.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not running 59s right now, but I still make myself go out and do 400 and sometimes 500s. They're just such a different ball game. And then the 1 and the 2, I ended up learning a lot more about how to utilize my glutes and get strong in the drive phase. So that helped tremendously when I finally was able to click in how to really use my glutes. And this is kind of a funny story.
Okay.
So I decided I wanted to run track and compete, and that's a whole nother fun story, but I can only go one story at a time. So I find a coach that I met, his girlfriend. She was a Canadian sprinter, dating him, so in and out of the States. And when she was in the States, she was doing some of the track meets that I was doing. That's how I met her. She was beautiful, amazing sprinter. And so we would go to these track meets where anyone can go, like an older person, younger person, anyone can come and run a track meet. It's official timing. So, you might run sometimes with guys if there's not enough women or whatever, which I always liked because then they, you made sure that you could get pushed.
Yeah.
But anyway, so when I meet the track coach, he meets me at the track the first time, and he comes out with one of my magazines, and he's like, all right, so I've been a fan a long time, and he brings his magazine, wanted me to sign, so that was fine. Well, then he's having me just do some things, right? He's just watching what I can do, how I train, or how I do things.
Yeah.
And he finally stopped me, and he's like, so I know that you've been known for your glutes for a very long time in the industry, but you have really weak glutes. And I was like, oh, what?
How dare you?
I was like, what? I had no idea. I mean, it was just so funny because I know, and I think about how that must have felt for him to tell me.
Right.
Because I was known for my glutes.
Right.
But they were round, but that doesn't mean that
strength-wise,
I knew how to use them correctly. And so what that did for me was really put me into a learning journey, experimenting, and really learning how to use my glutes more. And so now I do a lot of coaching with that.
Yeah.
And I've coached a lot of women on how to use their glutes correctly, throughout the day, not just when you're doing a squat, and
no,
how to actually engage it.
They'll love that around here, That's especially you met Eden earlier. That's what she's known for, is building the butt area in this area. So that's going to complement really well too with the training tomorrow.
It's really important. So I just people, we don't know what we don't know, but for the most part, people are dragging their butts around instead of having their butts push them forward.
Yeah.
And actually use their glutes to pick up their legs and, move forward. And it just, people for the most part drag themselves with their hips, and their quads, and then their glutes are just kind of dangling
Hanging
back
out there.
and they're not really getting the work that they should be getting, and they're not getting used correctly. And it creates poor posture. It creates knee and ankle issues. So
Yeah.
there's a lot.
A lot goes into it.
Yeah.
So like, I know I'm jumping around a little bit,
That's
but there's
okay.
a lot to talk about. So when you first started, you said your first show, you were 19. Is that what you said?
It was in 1991, and I was 20.
Oh, okay.
It was the summer I was 20.
Okay.
I started working out like when I was 19.
Okay. Okay. And you, like, how'd you get into that? Because I know we talked about that earlier, but people will want to know that.
Getting into working out or getting into the actual competition?
Competition side, yeah.
Well, it all kind of flowed together anyways. I was kind of dating a guy that worked at a gym, and I didn't know anything about gyms at the time, really. I had not really been in gyms. Grew up country girl.
Yeah.
We didn't have gyms out where I grew up. And he had me come in and, showing me how to, here's a shoulder press and
Yeah.
your bench press. Because, back then you just did all the standard stuff.
The basic stuff.
We didn't
yeah.
have any fancy hip thrusters or anything. It was like,
Yeah.
here's a squat, here's a bench press, and
Yeah.
here's your shoulder press, and then there's the machines, right?
Yeah.
But so anyways, we were looking at a magazine one day, and there was a article where Marla Duncan had won the Fitness USA Nationals. And I thought, well, it's kind of interesting, and so I took the magazine and whatever, and ended up buying the VHS tape out of it and watched it, and I was like, I think I can do this. That's really how it started.
I love it.
It was so just...
I remember all the VHS tape days, and I laugh about it now because when I was young, that's what you did.
Yeah.
The VHS. But anyways,
Yeah, I mean, and at the time the routines were really different back then.
yeah.
I mean, it was that actual competition had 3 rounds. It had a physique round, 2-piece, and then there was the routine. And they said, oh, we need you to showcase flexibility, strength, and stamina,
Yeah.
That
you
was
do,
kind of it.
that's
So
what I do,
the girl
yeah.
that had won that year, she did like high kicks and running in place and a couple back walkovers and maybe some splits. Like, it wasn't like a
Yeah.
crazy routine, but it was a third of the, it was a third. So then she won probably the physique round. There were some other girls that did some gymnastic stuff, but she had a really super cute physique. And then the third round was you wore a gown and high heels, and it was like a pageant. And you had to walk on the stage to the middle of the stage, and there was a microphone, and you had to give your philosophy on fitness
Really?
within 45 seconds, and they would shut it off if you went over.
Are you? Wow. Okay.
So I ended up having a sponsor, which was a lady that was a pageant coach. So she helped me find a gown, because I don't know anything about pageants or having gowns
Wow.
or whatever.
Yeah.
So
That's.
she helped me. Took me to go gown shopping and, heels and learning to walk in my heels and how to do the hair and
Man, that's a little different.
and then
isn't it?
helped me put my little thing together with my speech and then I had a friend that was a trainer and he was working out. He was helping me with my workouts, and he would stop me every once in a while in between sets, and he's like, "Tell Dan here your speech." So I had to practice it all the time.
With everybody, yeah. Okay.
So it became more natural and more fluid.
That's awesome. So you like went from doing those initial shows that you won the Olympia though. That's like
Right.
that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing in the world. Like that's crazy. That's how did that feel, and like what was the process, the journey like getting there? Because that's insane. I mean, that's
How long do we have to talk?
I know, right? I know, right? We can do highlight reel.
Well, let me get goodness. Well, let's see. I competed in a few years in a row, and I mean, there were so many cool stories. Like, it always seemed to be like there was a guy that helped me out. Go figure. But I met another guy who was when I went to beach for spring break.
Yeah.
So one of my friends.
Yeah.
Well, we met a couple guys down there, and I'd gone with a big group of people, and he was a bodybuilder, and I didn't really know anything about bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Like, and so he and I, kept in touch and he was up in Arkansas, and so I remember him asking me, about competing, and at that point when I met him, I had competed in a couple shows, and then I was like, okay, that was fun, but I didn't see any purpose to keep doing it, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
And so when I met him, he was, kind of like, well, you should be. And at the time, the other thing is I didn't have a choreographer. So I kind of was like, I'm working with like some, nothing against it, but I just had like access to aerobic coordinator, and it just wasn't. And I didn't have any dance background. I was self-taught gymnastics. Like I knew how to do backflips, round off back handsprings, back flips, front flips, aerials. I didn't do them correctly because I taught myself from a trampoline out in the country. Back in my high school, I wanted to try out for cheerleading one time, and so my mom told me, she was, well, you can try out. And so I had been doing all these things on the trampoline that I'd saw the girls doing on the field, the other cheerleaders. So I taught myself how to do them on the ground. Because I thought, well, maybe I have to do this if I'm going to do that. If I'm going to try out, I have to know how to do back handsprings and stuff. So I taught myself how to do that. So anyways, I had these kind of skills that didn't have the right proper form. Yeah. But I still had them, but I didn't have a choreographer. But this guy that I met, the bodybuilder, he was kind of giving me a hard time. He was like, well, you should compete again. And he was like, who's the San Antonio Spurs silver dancer choreographer? And I was like, I don't know. There was a silver Spurs dance team for the San Antonio Spurs. It was the very first dance team. And we're talking back in the early 90s, right?
Okay, yeah.
I didn't know who it was. And he's like, well, you should find out and have her choreograph your routine. Okay, whatever. So that's happened. And then he invites me, and this all kind of leads up to Olympia. So he invites me to come see him at his next bodybuilding show, which at the time was in Tijuana. It was the Nationals, like the NPC Nationals. And he was a heavyweight bodybuilder in the national division. So my girlfriend went with me, and because I couldn't go alone. And we go to watch the show and hang out with him and his friends or whatever. And well, he introduced me to one man named John Perillo, and John Perillo used to have a very large following. He was an incredible nutritionist. He had his own Perillo Performance line and everything. Well, John introduced me to a guy named Ralph. Ralph, at the time, I didn't know anything about this, but Ralph was a photographer, which I'd worked with some photographers in San Antonio. Yeah. But I didn't realize that he was a contracted muscle and fitness photographer. Okay. So anything he shot was for muscle and fitness. Okay. Or flex, which I at the time had no clue what that meant. I didn't know. But long story short, he's like, well, have you ever come out to California? Look me up and we'll do a photo shoot together. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm 22 at the time. I was 23. So the next spring, my girlfriends and I, let's go to California and party. So we drive to L.A. That's a whole nother story. 5 girls, 1 hotel room.
Good times.
Hollywood. Shopping. Yeah. And at that time, I lost my ID.
Oh, no.
I lost my credit card, my ID. I somehow got back on the plane. They let me back on. I mean, back then it was different, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't have an ID, but somehow I got home. But I remember we went shopping on Melrose Avenue and all the things. Yep. Well, after that, my best friend and I drove down to San Diego to the photographer's place, and he did some photos with me. Yeah. I still didn't know that Muscle and Fitness. He had a big, nice studio, and she was with me, so we felt safe, whatever. Yeah. Flew home, and, nothing really at that time came of that. But then he's like, well, yeah, come back out. Let's shoot again. I'm like, okay. Well, I had by then started kind of figuring out who the Silver Spur dance choreographer was. I met her. I ended up meeting her. And she started working with me. So then I'm like, okay, now I'm going to compete again. But I have to go to where the big girls compete in California.
Yeah.
So I thought. So I go to Venice, California in June of 94. Mind you, kind of go back for a minute. April of 94, when we went to LA and party hardy for a weekend, I went to do a photo shoot after the party hardy.
Really?
I mean, you don't do that.
Yeah,
You're a little, the party hardy.
Yes.
Oh, I had no idea. But the pictures were still kind of cute.
Yeah.
So, and he was like, hey, come back and shoot again. I'm like, okay. So a couple months later, I'm there in Venice to compete. I win my show. And I'd set it up again to go back down and shoot with this photographer. My girlfriend went back with me again. And this time he asked me if I would stay an extra day and shoot with a bodybuilder. And I was like, I guess. Like, you know, again, easy to change your flights back then, no big deal. And we were actually staying in his basement of his house, so we didn't have to pay for a place.
Yeah.
So I stayed and we went to the next day to do the photo shoot with the bodybuilder. And I was just like, I had no idea who he was, but he was the #1 bodybuilder at that time. He had just won, like literally the same weekend that I won my show, he won the USAs, the NPC USAs. He was a heavyweight. So he won that show. He looked like Superman. Looked like Clark, what's his name?
Clark Kent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looked just like him.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Dennis Newman.
Yeah.
I was just like, what am I doing with this guy? I'm like, and I didn't know this, but he had a muscle and fitness contract already. So he was like one of the youngest guys to have a contract without being a pro yet.
So they didn't tell you.
He was so perfect as a bodybuilder to look at that Joe Weider signed him like immediately, even though he wasn't a professional. So they were going to, this photographer, Ralph, is going to shoot us together trying for a cover. I say trying for a cover.
I was going to say, did you even know that they were doing that?
I didn't even know that was a thing. And I did my own, my girlfriend's with me. We did my own hair and makeup, and I had my own clothes on. And, it wasn't anything fancy.
Yeah.
And Dennis was there, and he was, lively and talkative, like super outgoing. And he knew he was very handsome. I mean, so we do these pictures, and we fly home, and a few months goes by, and I get a call from the photographer, and he's like, hey, congratulations, cover girl. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, you're on the cover of Muscle and Fitness, November 94. November. And I'm like, what does that mean? He goes, you're on the cover of Muscle and Fitness.
Did they at least send you the magazine?
No, I had to go buy my own. I got a $200 check in the mail.
No.
$200.
No.
And I used all of it to go buy magazines.
That is crazy.
That was and I was like, who am I? And why am I on the cover? But it's funny because you know how most covers that had a guy girl, it'd be like the girl's hanging on the guy.
Yes.
Well, this cover, Dennis is behind me, peeking around me. And I'm front and center.
Really?
Yeah, exactly one.
Oh, look, he pulled
That's
it up.
it.
He can
That's
show
it.
that.
So
on
my leotard, that's my own leotard. My hair is kind of frizzy. I did my own hair.
That's so funny.
That's the one,
we'll
right?
put it in there.
My mom, why don't you have any pants on? I'm like, well, you don't wear pants on the cover of Muscle and Fitness, Mom, I guess.
You got to show off the muscles.
Yeah, that's what I told her. Show off the muscles. So that cover actually just helped do so much for me. It opened up so many doors because now I had a cover. When I finally realized that there was more opportunities in different ways than I was able to use. I had been working with a agency in San Antonio. So I had a couple little small things in San Antonio, not anything too major. I was at the time I was too muscular for everything. They didn't really know what to do with me because I wasn't really bikini. I wasn't, Hispanic. Because, in San Antonio, it's like you're either blonde and skinny, bikini kind of girl, or you're, Hispanic.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't either of those things. I had no muscle. So they didn't really know how to utilize
They
muscle
didn't
at
have the
time.
categories like
You know,
they
even so, just kind of bumping forward, I worked with an agency out in L.A., a sports agency.
Yeah.
And at the time, they would not use any of my muscle and fitness covers or features or anything for advertising me as one of their models. Because number one, the muscle, and they said it would hinder me because everyone would look at it like it's steroids. This is LA
Really?
agency.
Wow.
They didn't want me to have, so I couldn't use any of my stuff on any, like, my composites. Back then you did composite pictures and all that, right?
And you
That's
couldn't
really
use
different.
any of them.
So, like, it was kind of crazy right after that, I guess when I finally moved out of LA and came back to Texas, but, and then the Biggest Loser with Jillian, and there was like some muscles starting to pop up on screen.
Yeah. And then and now it's morphed into today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you asked about the Olympia, but there were so many different stories that led up to me doing the Olympia, and that win was pretty amazing. I got to be on the first year I was in LA. I wasn't even out there for a week, and I got called to go do a job in Jamaica. So I was like, okay, I'll fly out there and be a model. And, it was just kind of one thing after another. And then I ended up winning a big pro show in July of that summer, 95. I moved to LA in 95, April. And so I had a competition that I was training for. I ended up winning that. And that was basically the first pro IFBB fitness show. So I was winning that, basically gave me the first IFBB pro fitness award of ever.
That's
Of ever,
awesome.
of ever. But
So many amazing
the cool thing was
accomplishments. I love that.
there was at the time, like worldwide, there was just mostly there was only bodybuilding going on. Mm-hmm. There was a couple little fitness things here or there, like the Galaxy kind of spin off, and then the Fitness USA was kind of still hanging in there a little bit. Fitness America was involved, but that was only here in the States. And then but all over the world there was just bodybuilding. Mm-hmm. So they started hiring me to come do guest appearances around the world to showcase what fitness was, because I was in the magazines, because I was started to get all the exposure in the magazines with the covers and so forth.
So going back, did that choreographer that you were talking about, was it after the fitness magazine that that you started to get that work with them, or because you were talking about before?
The one in San Antonio?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
she was in San Antonio. No, that was before all the fitness stuff.
Before all of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess I don't even know how I found her. I must have just yellow pages back then, old school yellow phone book.
It was so much simpler, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I'm sure, because I remember going to her little studio, and she put a Guns N' Roses was the song she used, and I had a little leopard outfit she had designed for me.
Yeah.
And I remember there's so many cool little memories from that. And then years later, she actually brought me in to do an event that she was hosting, and I don't remember, it was some kind of pro dance thing, and she brought me in to help host it, because now I had a name and magazines, and she hired me to come back to San Antonio and do this event with her. But it was cool.
What about like your nutrition in that time, like when you were competing and working your way up to the Olympia? Like, how did that change, fluctuate versus kind of what? I mean, because I know that had to morph a lot,
Oh, for sure. I mean, it was just like it is even to today. Mm-hmm. It's constantly trying to find out, what does my body need?
Yeah.
And, we didn't have all the information back then. And I had, some people helping me. The bodybuilder that I met that talked, he actually gave me a lot of information. But it was just trial and error. I did a lot more carbs, but I had to learn how to use carbs correctly, especially doing fitness, because it was, the routines are so intensive. And as I ended up moving to California, I started working with a gymnastics coach out there. And that's one of the reasons I was able to win the Olympia, is because my routine got so strong, because I was now able to work with the gymnastics coach out there, and then I had a choreographer that I met. Actually, at an agency, I met her husband, and so I had really good help.
Yeah.
And I was, just strong-willed, and I'm going to learn how to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm jumpy.
You say that we were doing our her and Eden were putting together the plan for tomorrow, and I was like very impressed because you just seem so
Bouncy.
nimble about everything. I'm like, that is not anywhere close to how I look trying to do that. But like how like
I have to say I love being an athlete.
yeah.
I adore being an athlete.
Yeah.
And some of my favorite things, probably the most favorite that I could say, if I could only pick one thing to do as an athlete, and that's all I got to do, it would be sprinting.
Really?
Of course, on a track.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't want to sprint on the grass and have, step in the wrong places. But that is by far, and then all the drills that go with sprinting that I've learned, because I can do a full body workout out there just in my 30, 40-minute warm-up to be able to do sprints all out.
Wow.
There is almost nothing as rewarding as being able to run completely full out and not pull anything, and know that you have gone as fast as you can go, and you could go no further with a good distance, like with not just going, oh, okay, I made it 10 meters, like
Yeah.
where you can say the 400 or the 300, whatever it is, that I'm going to start here, I'm going to end there, and I have a plan, and I'm going to, and I'm going all out. Like, with kids, kids do that, right? Mm-hmm. You see kids, they run, they stop, they run, they stop, they run, they run hard, and then they stop, and then they fall over,
Yes.
What do we do as we get older? We stop doing that. Mm-hmm. That's why people have so many issues, because they quit doing what we grew up doing.
Yeah.
I never did, though.
Yeah.
I still run and jump, and I like to hang upside down. Anything you can put me on, I like to flip around.
Yeah.
And, I probably would have done well in gymnastics if I had real gymnastics,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because, I started taking with a coach out there in Pasadena. I used to drive, and it was a nice little hour drive one way, but I loved it. And he started teaching me, fundamentals, because I didn't know any fundamentals. I couldn't do a cartwheel correctly,
Yeah.
but I could do a round off back handspring back flip.
Wow. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I had to learn technique, and
Yeah.
so I started learning better techniques so that I could look more professional. I learned how to point my toes, because on track you don't have to point your toes. Riding horses, you push your heels down, but you don't, you're not thinking about pointing your toes.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to engage with the audience and not be afraid of all these people staring at me, right? Because track, again, you just run. Or volleyball, I played volleyball
Yeah.
too, but you didn't have to interact with the crowd.
What do
So
you
with fitness routines, you
yeah.
It's like cheerleading, right?
Yeah, you had to.
Just a little
It's a
different.
performance.
Yeah, so a lot of people came to fitness that were cheerleaders, that were gymnasts. So I had a competition of all of these kind of girls that started coming into the industry, because they're like, oh, I've been doing this kind of routines forever,
Yeah.
And so I was trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
So,
in gymnastics.
so out of all of it, what do you think was the most challenging part of doing this career? Like, what do you think? What did you find the hardest?
The subjectivity of the actual events. There's no, like track, you could get a PR and still come in 4th or 5th place and
Yeah.
have your best race ever. And
Yeah.
oh, they ran faster and harder than ever, had a great start.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You could work as hard as you can work and come in the best you can look, and oh, your suit didn't fit you right. You had the wrong shoes on. I remember one year I came in second, and they were like, well, we didn't like your shoes. I'm like,
Wow.
okay. Or your tan's off. I mean, it's just, that was really frustrating, because there's some, I
Yeah.
don't know. The subjectivity is hard. And then you start learning some of the stuff that happens behind the scenes, and then you have these people that are judging you. It's like, but, for me, it was the competitions were always part of my job description. They didn't define me,
Yeah.
and still to this day they don't. I'm an athlete, first of all. And I love building relationships with people. I had great relationship with companies that I was a sponsored athlete for many years, and I love meeting fans and people. And
Yeah.
it's weird. It sounds weird to say fans, but that's what they are. They're not
Yeah.
friends. They're not
Yeah.
acquaintances. They're literally fans. And in the old days, those fans waited for those magazines to come out. They'd come to the event. They'd stand in line for 2 hours to just meet you and say hi and have you sign their magazine, or they'd buy the 8x10s or whatever.
Yeah.
So I loved all of that. I know that you've asked me about the end of, if I have a quote or something, right?
Yeah.
But I remember when I first started autographing pictures, like, it was the weirdest thing ever. I'm like, okay. And I had some cool people that helped me guide me in that area, because
Yeah.
that's not normal.
Yeah, you don't
high
have,
school.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you
yeah.
learn to do that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right? My first autograph signing was with Dennis Newman at the Arnold Classics. That was kind of cool. But I had a gentleman come up to me, an older man, and he came up to me one year, and I didn't remember this at the time, but the next year he came back, and he said, last year you signed my picture and you said, stay fit and love life. And he said, I took that to heart, and I went home and I made sure to stay fit. I started exercising more, and I loved life, and I did that by dancing with my wife more often.
Oh,
And I was like,
that's so cute.
did I say that in the picture?
That's so cute.
So I just kind of kept that up. And then I had other people, make sure you date it. People have dates on it. Yeah, so it's fun, because even to this
evolution.
day, I have people that send me their pictures on their wall of fame or whatever.
Aw.
They're like, I saw you in the gym, or they take
Yeah.
a selfie with it, and like got an old date on it or something. It's fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So another thing, when we were talking in the car on the way here, you are very deeply intertwined with your faith, and that's a big part of what you do. And even on the plane, sharing with the gentleman,
The
through
crazy
the
plane ride,
through
right?
the turbulence, But talk about a little bit with your journey with that and how that's affected, things in your life.
Sure. So I grew up, I just say I've been, as long as I can remember, I've loved Jesus, is all I know. And I've always wanted to know who he is, read the Bible. Like, I've always been drawn to him,
Yeah.
to God, right? And so, there's obviously times in my life that, had to check things out and walk this path and walk that path. And I always say, I know that, I know I didn't do everything the way God wanted me to do it, but he still kind of took the paddles and always put me back in play,
Yeah.
The game that
Yeah.
that old pinball game.
Off the side, yes.
With volley,
yes,
like trying to get the
yes,
ball up there.
yeah.
So I always feel like that's what God's always done with me. And if I look back on, some of the decisions and choices I made, and how he protected me, especially living in L.A. by myself for 10 years.
Absolutely,
and,
yeah.
the driving all over and just flying all around the world by myself. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
I would book a job and, okay, sign, you would go.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I don't know. I've always been, and one of the things when I moved to LA, I was really excited about was finding the church that I wanted to go to, and not feeling like I'm going for my mom.
Right.
Which, I adore and love my mom, and I'm so thankful that she was always encouraging me, come to church, or dragging me when I was a kid, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get draggy when you're a kid, right? Like, even if you love the Lord, sometimes you're like, Mom,
I
it's 6 a.m.
don't
on
wanna do
Sunday.
it.
I don't want to get up.
Yes.
I have to get up at 6 every day.
Yeah.
And Sunday, because we drove a little over an hour to go to church.
Yeah.
And then Sunday, it was all day.
Yeah.
Because it was like you had to be there at 7:30 or 8, I don't even know. And then
Yeah.
we did the youth group, and then there was a break, and then the main church started. And youth group was about an hour, I guess, and then there's some 30-minute break or whatever, and then the main church was like 2 hours. And when you're a kid, you're just kind of like, I can't understand him, and
Yeah.
it was a lot. But
Yeah.
I'm thankful that my mom pursued that and made sure that we were in church, and I do have a lot of great memories from that. But when I moved to California at 24, I just remember really wanting to find my places and maybe just expand my faith
Yeah.
on my own and my terms. and not feel like am I doing this just for my mom? You know, you
Yeah.
kind of sometimes question those things.
Absolutely.
But I wasn't, and I think that, there's a lot of probably paths that I probably shouldn't have taken, but man, the Lord has used them to really teach me a lot.
Yeah.
And I've been able to share a lot with people because people ask things and I get to talk. And I've had experiences that were very challenging in my life, and I used my faith to get through them. And I never asked God, why me? It was always like, what do I need to learn from this? Mm-hmm. So it's about that attitude and the heart. Like my understanding is that God allows things in our life. I don't think he makes things in our life. I think he allows them. And then sometimes our choices produce consequences that we have to walk through.
Yeah.
And he will continue to hold us up and help us.
Yeah.
He can take any mess and make a message. And I had a lot of messes. I still do, right?
Yeah, we all do,
we're
right?
here on this earth. But
Yeah.
I think the last, I guess the last decade of my life, I'm 54, I'll be 55 this year, and it's really been to encourage. I like the word encourage. Encourage because it says in the word that we are to encourage other people's faith.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm really good, I feel like, at encouraging people where they are with their faith, and then just putting things in their life that show it's easy. It doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah.
And, God's not standing up there with his arms crossed, tapping his toe at us. He's a loving God, and he has so much good for us.
Yeah.
We got to open our hearts up for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the funny thing is that I've started I started as a program, and I'm going to do an ebook, and then I'm going to come back and do a program along with it. But it's called Standing Firm. I haven't got the whole thing, but it's a 7-day protocol for standing firm, body and spirit.
I love it.
Right? Because like we talked about, you can't just have a strong body without a strong spirit. You can't just be all about your faith and not have any time for building your body. It's godliness.
It's a well-rounded.
Yeah. I mean, even Paul talks about it's good to be taking care of our body, but it's even better to have godliness in ours. So my program and ebook, I've got the ebook, the first draft done, and I'm excited about finishing it up. It'll be on my website for now, but I have an idea for a program to attach with it and help people lead them through it. But it's about strengthening glutes and posture of, how we stand, because, posture is a bad posture is hard on us physically and also emotionally. I mean,
it's an energy, really. Even how, you know what I mean? Like,
and it's so prevalent now.
I mean, what do you think, like, when you're seeing somebody, like, headhunt, you know what I mean? Versus somebody walking with, you know what I mean, upright. Yeah. Displays of confidence, too, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And then people have so many shoulder issues. I have worked with so many people that have shoulder issues, and I've shown them exactly what they need to do, and they're like, my doctor's never told me this. I'm like, yeah. Like, I probably could be a therapist or something.
Yeah, no, I mean, I
haven't taken the classes for it, but I know exactly how to help people work through some different, impingements.
There's a lot missing, though, in the regular. We talked about that a little, too. There's so much missing in the regular medical world, so.
Yeah, they just want to do shots, and I'm like, we got to open this up. I stand before him and behind him, and you start massaging the shoulders and the chest, and people are always like, oh, I feel.
Yeah.
But then you just think about, like, you can't breathe real well if you're all crunched over, too, right? I mean, the diaphragm is like hindered. And anyways, we could talk about posture.
We could do that. There's a lot of.
But I guess kind of where I'm going to with that is our posture. Our physical posture is really important, as is our posture in front of God.
I love that.
And a lot of people don't really think about that, like having a healthy fear of God and having correct posture, humility.
Wow, yeah.
Breaking pride and asking God for literally salvation.
Yeah. I love that. That's like a good I love that. What about For you, I want to know kind of what your day looks like on a typical day. Like when because you're talking about that combined spiritual and physical, and I know that your days are filled with that. Like, so I'm just curious, like, and I think it's good too because I was reading, I don't even know what it was, but talking about how little people regularly work out. And it was really shocking to me. I mean, it's like less than 20% are like working out regularly. And I thought that was really like such a crazy statistic considering how many health things, even with, the muscle and longevity and like the reduction in Alzheimer's and all kinds of diseases. I'm like, if you had a pill that could, take care of 80% of your symptoms, who would jump on that? Everybody, right? Versus like, why aren't we utilizing these things that are available to anybody? So I like to, talk about what are you doing on a regular basis? What's a regular day look like? Just so, I like to compare that to see.
Sure.
Yeah.
So on a day that if I go to help at the ranch, then that's pretty much all I do. I go out there and I help lunge or ride horses. I'll do some lessons with kids if we have any that need, and just kind of help with whatever husband needs out there. If he needs more riding and exercising the horses, then I'm good at that. I'm bathing, whatever.
Yeah.
So that would be a full day, basically, like anywhere from 4 on the least amount up to 7, 8, 9 hours that you'd be at the ranch, right? So mornings, I try to get my devotional time in the morning, whether that means I'm sitting I have a little front room that's set up with my sofa and my Bibles, because I like different translations, and I have my journals, and so I have a space there, which is, I consider it my altar, where I go and meet the Lord.
Yeah.
And I take time there. So either that, or I've been kind of doing this walking outside, reading my Bible. We have a nice neighborhood that's got good hills. So I don't have to, if I do that, that's not me trying to go get a power walk in.
Yeah.
But I wear my 10-pound weighted vest, and I just go out and I walk backwards and work on the backwards movement. And I just read my Bible.
You said
I'll do like for an hour.
You said something earlier, and I loved it because you were talking about, when you're speaking something out loud, like you were talking about names, and you were like, how often do you remember a name if you're not saying it up front regularly? And I was like, you don't, like, it's how you don't really, and it's the same thing with like saying the word like that. Like it's how are you imprinting it? And then you also followed that with talking about how it's like a sneeze, like you're blanketing the whole community in these words. And I love that. I like it's giving power to that. And I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, just bringing God's presence, because I believe we carry God's presence when we're His children.
Yeah.
We carry His presence if we ask Him to come with us, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I don't know what's going on in all the homes around me, right?
Yeah.
And the neighborhood and the people. So I just sometimes, if I feel to pray for some family that lives in a home, I'll just speak a prayer as I'm walking by. I don't necessarily know the people. I may not even see them. Yeah. But if I feel like the Holy Spirit's like, hey, just pray right here for these people. And I'll just pray whatever I feel, because the Lord says that He will pray through us sometimes. So we don't have to think, we don't have to premeditate what we're going to say.
Yeah.
We can just allow the Lord to lead us, and we can trust that His prayer for whatever is necessary. So so I try to get in. I like to get in. If I can say this, I try to do equal times of Bible reading, prayer time, and my workouts.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I want to be balanced.
You want to be balanced,
areas, right? Yeah. Maybe sometimes that I'm going to do, I'm going to go hiking, and I'm going to be out there for 2 hours in the hills, right? Well, then maybe I'm memorizing scripture while I'm out there.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like to listen to a pastor podcast or something that I've been wanting to listen to. I listen to a lot of crazy things.
I love it. What's some of your favorite podcasts?
Oh, gosh.
You knew that was coming,
I have
didn't you?
one that it's called Confessionals. Mm-hmm. And it's all faith-based.
Yeah.
But it's talking like alien abductions, people that were raised in the Illuminati. I mean,
Wow. Yeah.
deep,
Yeah.
deep stuff.
Yeah.
People that are abused and watching humans, like adults, turn into monsters while they're abusing them, like, and how they've gotten out of it, how God's pulled them out. They're always have these stories, but then God has rescued them, and they are now a changed person.
Yeah.
But their stories are
Crazy.
just. I like a guy named Timothy Alberino, and I'm actually reading his book right now called Birthright. Mm-hmm. Really amazing.
Yeah.
Really amazing. And he talks about the whole creation, what was going on before man was created, and just his whole take on it. He's amazing. You probably like his book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I listen to his stuff, and he travels all around the world, going to the big megaliths, the big things that were created by the Nephilim, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And he has all kinds of crazy stories. So I follow some of that kind of really deep stuff. Most people would like the prayer that I had today that I shared with the guy next to me. And I'm like, "You like to read?" And he was looking at me, and his eyes looked pretty scared because the turbulence was so bad. And I'm like, "It's a prayer." And he was like, so he took it, and I go, "It's really deep." It's a
You
very
were giving him a warning.
deep prayer. It's not your Jesus loves me prayer.
Yeah.
I said, be warned. Just let your eyes go over it. And I thought any second he was going to hand it back to me, because it's like 5 pages.
Yeah.
I thought any minute he's going to be like, nah. But he read the whole thing, and then he wanted to take pictures of it.
That's
And he
awesome.
wanted to share with his mom.
I love it.
I
love
know.
it.
Oh, I think we got to bless our moms today, both of us,
Yes.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
late Mother's Day
100%.
blessings. Because
Yeah.
he ended up
I
saying,
was
"No,
gonna
my
say
mom
Mother's
prays for me all
Day.
the time." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, mine does too." So now we get to
Yes.
go and tell our moms thank you for the prayer of protection over the
Yeah.
flight, and the divine appointment, and being able to share the word of God together. Like, that's fellowship.
I say that all the time. Like, there's all kinds of, like you were talking about, all kinds of things I could have gotten in trouble with. And you definitely feel like, I came from a praying family, and there's definitely feels like there's been protection over things that could have gone a lot worse.
Right.
So
Yeah.
definitely.
I've been asking the God to reveal things to me that I need to repent from. And sometimes I wake up with some things that I'm just like, oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
like I don't want to think about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I have to be able to repent from it. So then I have to tell the
Yeah.
Lord, thank you for bringing that to mind.
Yeah.
Because we want to have cleansed.
Yeah.
And sanctification is an ongoing cleansing of us. I liken it to someone that's a hoarder. Mm-hmm. And they can be a hoarder of sin in their heart. And when a hoarder finally allows someone to come in and help the cleaning happen, it takes time.
Yeah.
They have to open the door, let someone in, trust them with all the stuff that they've been hoarding, because there's a
Attachment.
thank you, attachment to that stuff.
Yeah.
And even if it's junk and it could be a dead animal on the floor that they're
Yeah.
attached to, right? That they know to move it.
Yeah.
But it's the same kind of thing with our heart, and God just wants us to have a clean heart. And He's
Yeah.
like, just let me in, and I'll start cleaning your heart. And it just, we're gonna do a little here, a little there. It's not. I mean, some people, have a big drastic change when they accept the Lord, and they're like, this massive change, but then it takes time to cleanse that heart still.
Yeah.
And things come up for years, maybe trauma or things that they've gone through that were really hard and they'd forgotten it.
Yeah.
So I went through something kind of recently with my ex-husband ended up to be abusive, and I had never put anything out. My book that I'm writing right now, I'll have more on it, because I've learned so much going through what I went through with him.
Yeah.
He's no longer alive, which I'm relieved about. He died at 42, massive heart attack. He just was in a really bad place. But he put me through quite a bit. And there was a period of time when my mom moved into our house. She was struggling, and we let her move into our house. And he was so hateful to her. He was just really hard on my mom. It's like he wanted to be the nice guy to let her live there, but then he really was mean to her.
Yeah.
And if I tried to intercede or, intervene,
Yeah.
he would then, go off on me. It was really challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom and I are driving a couple weeks ago, and we were looking at the land around, and we're just kind of talking about Austin, because we were in Austin at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she goes, "Remember the little apartment I lived in?" And I'm like, "What?" She reminded me that she lived in an apartment for 2 years up in Austin when she had to get out of the house because my ex was so hateful to her, and she finally had to leave, like get out. And I helped her move in. I helped her find the apartment, move into the apartment. I don't remember any of it.
Really? It was like
I'm-
the block had a
It
block
was 2
there.
years of, I guess, what I was going through with him that was so bad that that whole time frame was just like I was on drugs, gone,
Yeah.
out. And she's telling me this in the car, and I'm driving, and I kind of feel like it now. Like, I felt like I was first of all, I felt like I was going to throw up. I was like, do I need to pull over? I'm not a throw up person either.
Yeah.
Like, I've never thrown up working out as hard as sprinting, nothing, ever
Yeah.
thrown up. I thought I was going to throw up, and then I felt like I was going to start bawling.
Oh.
And I was like, what's going on? And my mom's like, you okay? And I'm like, I feel like I don't even know like what I feel like, but
Yeah.
I'm realizing that I don't remember those 2 years. I don't even remember helping her get into that apartment. Like, you just put stuff out. So I think that's what I was getting at. It was like that sanctification for when you become when you ask the Lord to live in your heart, like he comes in and he just gently starts cleaning. Mm-hmm. And as you keep asking, he keeps cleaning. And eventually your heart gets cleaner and cleaner and cleaner, which is supposed to be. We're supposed to let him come and get the stuff out of that. And then we're more able to be aligned with him.
Yeah.
But man,
That's tough, though. That's like going, when you're talking about that many layers, and
Right.
it's like an onion, you're
Yeah.
like peeling through that each,
That
you know
was-
what I mean?
Yeah. So it's like, I've been asking the Lord, you're like, show me what I need to be repentant of, with the one eye open. And
Do I really? Sort of.
And then the prayer I always say this, I'm like, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be pleasing to you, oh Lord.
Yeah.
And I try to remember that whenever I feel like some of the other story I was telling you about my neighbor, and I was just like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
don't grudge.
You gotta,
Remember
the
don't
grudge. The grudge is the new word of the day. Yeah.
Because the judge is right there.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I
There's
love
so
it.
many of those that we just have to have them right in front so that we stop whatever it is and just go, okay, God will make everything right. And he just has to keep cleaning me so that I'm available to do his work, like
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
like now. Like,
Yeah. What do you think is like the biggest barrier to people from like fitness, spiritual? Like, what do you think is like the biggest thing that like
getting started.
Yeah.
I think it's in both areas.
Yeah.
Because number one, I'm going to go back to this. So I hosted the Fem Camps for almost 15, 16 years.
Yeah.
And I had so many women over the years that we did those. I'm not in good enough condition to come to your event. And I would hear this over and over and over.
I
and
had
I'm like,
some even for your boot camp. Like you guys are all in
No.
great shape, and I'm like,
no, just come as you are.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't need to. I want you because I want to help you where you are.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be anything. So I think that's the biggest issue for people is really, because once you get started, then, you could have a day that's, okay, I'm going to only do 20 minutes today. Great. Or I'm going to read for 5 minutes today. Like, God can do so much in 5 minutes with a couple
Yeah.
scriptures that, oh my gosh, that is like revolutionary,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't take a lot, but what happens then is you are hungry for more, just like fitness or, eating better or eating wrong things. You end up hungry for more.
Yeah, I can attest.
I mean, that can
Yeah.
go in both directions
I can
too,
attest
right?
to that. Yes.
So it's, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's just that getting started because a lot of people, number one, don't know how easy it is. And then religion, which I'm not a fan of religion. I'm a fan of relationship with the Lord.
Right.
But religion, I think, has stopped so many people because they've had, I want to call it church hurt. And then they're like, what's the purpose of all this, structure of all, everything we have to go in and do all these do,
Yeah.
when you go into this church setting.
Yes.
Not to bash any
No,
type of churches,
no,
but,
I can 100% attest to that
but we
growing
have
up in it.
freedom
So,
in Christ.
yeah.
We should, I mean, but
Yeah.
doesn't mean we get to go do whatever we want. I
No.
mean, we do have free will.
Yeah.
And we will have consequences for what we do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but the Lord is mercy and graceful, full of mercy and full of grace, and
Yeah.
we have that, but it doesn't give us free reign to just live like we want, because again, God does say, or Jesus said, "Hey, I knew you not.
Yeah.
Depart."
Yeah.
So we are all responsible for our body, or if you want to call it the temple. We're responsible for this, and this is what we have to. I believe we are a soul that has a body.
Yeah.
I don't think we're a body that has a soul. Our body is secondary to our soul.
Yeah.
And the spirit is embedded in here so that we can communicate with God through the spirit. Mm-hmm. The body's just this
A
vessel to get us through life and enjoy.
Yeah.
Have babies if you can have babies, or, I mean, I've never been able to be pregnant, so I never got to do that. But I think that, there is freedom in Christ, but it's freedom when you know that your sins are forgiven. That's what's freedom.
Yeah.
That's the liberation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you're not chained to that anymore. Mm-hmm. It's the same as a bad habit, right? That's discipline is freedom, because you're not chained to this bad habit anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, there's freedom in it.
do you know the difference between temperance and self-control? Would you be able to, with all your...
With all my,
your
see, now you're going to call me
all
out.
all your masters. Have you ever learned the difference?
I mean, self-control, I think of, okay, if I'm looking at a pastry and I want that, but I'm able to control my desire, or I'm able to control myself and not do it. Temperance, when I think of temperance, I'm thinking more of...
You wouldn't even have the desire for that.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's not I don't have the elation of the feelings, or the I don't know how to put that into words, but that's...
Yeah, it's like you would see that, but you wouldn't even think that...
There wouldn't be the resistance.
Right?
Yes.
So I've had people ask me, what's the best translation to read, right? Mm-hmm. And I go back to, okay, well, like with fitness, when someone, well, what's the best workout? Well, for me, the best workout is sprinting, but for you, it's probably not going to be the best workout, right? Because you probably never sprinted since you've been an adult, so we're not going to go make you start sprinting. But there's things you can do to learn it, but that doesn't mean that's the best for you. So I always like fitness, the exercise. Well, the best is the one that you'll do.
That's so
right?
True. Yeah.
What do you enjoy doing, and do that.
Yeah.
Do that to where your heart rate gets up. Your muscles have to work. You sweat because you can release all the toxins, and you're heavy breathing, so you work your lungs.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we kind of go back. Okay, well, that makes sense. Well, so what's the best translation? And I'm like, again, the translation that you will read, right? But as you read, this is my experience, as I read, I grew up with a student study Bible. It's kind of like an NIV, I guess. Yeah. And then I've had an NIV, and now I'm kind of doing King James, and the New King James is one I had today, right? But I'm starting to read some more of the King James, and I've noticed there's a lot of different words as it's translated. And as I've picked up on these words, one of them is this: the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, forbearance, patience. Mm-hmm. Love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, faithfulness. And in the NIV, it says self-control. Mm-hmm. But in the King James, it says temperance. Mm-hmm. And
it's like a step further.
And I was like, it is.
Yes.
Right? It's another level.
Yeah.
And I thought, when I started analyzing these, it's one of the devotionals I want to write about.
Yeah.
When I started analyzing the difference of the words, I was like, well, self-control says that the self is controlling.
Yeah.
Not the Lord controlling.
Yeah.
Or you having a desire to please the Lord.
Yeah.
You have a self-control. And I felt like it's good for people to have self-control, but I felt like that temperance is, I like that it's another layer.
Yeah.
Level.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's really important. And so I have found in the translations, now that I've been reading so much of, and I go back and forth,
Yeah.
I'm seeing all these little things.
That's the thing. You can get so much. You may have read something, 10, 20 more times, and the next time you could take something like that that really alters the way you think about it, and that's part of it being a living thing, right? It's
And
not,
how God speaks to us. And
Yeah.
even like going through the Old Testament, and there's so many cool scriptures that I'm like, that is awesome. And just the way it bounces off the page at you when you're reading it that day, that moment, and what Moses went through or what Joshua went through, or, all of the Israelites or whatever it is,
Yeah.
And then I was doing a kind of a study on King David's first wife, Michal, because there's some poignant things that are said about her and the stories that happen about her, and then at the last thing you hear about her is she criticizes David for praising the Lord. And
Yeah.
I went into deep dive. Another thing I want to write about, I kind of did a deep dive on her and thinking, as a wife, why would she be in that? Because everyone criticizes her.
Yeah.
And if you go back and study the time frame, the time stamps of how, they talk about her and how much she loved him and what happened with her and being ripped away from him and he didn't come, all these things. And I think there was a lot of bitterness, and then he had collected other wives.
Yeah.
And I think there was a lot of bitterness and hurt in her life that wasn't shown. We don't see compassion for that in the storyline of
and-
her.
and
But
I-
that's how we get when we read the Bible. We get to a little deeper stuff.
Well, I always say when you're reading stuff like that too, you have to know the time. You have to know the W's, right? The when, what, where, how, whatever. Yeah, that how is not a W, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But and biblically though, men were the elevated. You don't see lineages of women. You don't see
Very little, right?
Like none of that. So it's
Very little.
you have to take that all into perspective and consider the times and what women were valued like, and it wasn't the same, so I think that's, people lose that and they have misunderstandings then because it's not, you got to know
I
that.
felt bad for her.
Yeah.
I did, because it says twice in the beginning how much she loved him.
Yeah.
That she loved him. And for the Bible to mention that, obviously
It was significant.
It was a significant, yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
I have a heart for wives too.
Yeah.
And I've been able to, because of what I went through with my ex and where I'm at with my husband now and all that I've learned in the prayers and everything, I feel like I have a different way of talking to wives when they come to me with their situations.
Yeah.
And how to encourage them in their marriage and not try to, you don't need that. It's a whole different take, and most of them are kind of like, oh, I never thought of it like that, or
Yeah.
and I've read a lot of books
Yeah.
on how God, because when I started going through my stuff with my ex, I wanted to know what God called a wife. Like, I didn't even know. I didn't know. I was in my 30s. I was going through fitness, all my stuff,
Yeah.
and here I am now, a wife, and I'm like having some issues, and I'm like, what does God call a wife to be? And who am I as God's child but a wife? How am I to pray for my husband, and how am I to think about this? So definitely a lot of growing and learning through all of that.
Yeah. What do you think was like your top two things? We'll start to wrap up here in a minute, but like top 2 or 3 things that you've like learned through all your experiences, because you have a lot of like wisdom. I've gotten a lot from you today, encouragement in my own
I
walk,
did
so
talk a
I
lot.
appreciate that. I love that. But
Thank you.
Yeah, and so I'd love to hear what like were some profound lessons for you, because I know you've learned a lot.
Well, that's a loaded question.
I know. I tend to
Big,
do
deep
those some that
question.
I'm throwing that out you.
One of the things that I've tried to encourage, I use the word again, encourage, because you can't tell anyone. I haven't shared this with you, but we helped raise a young girl too, from the time she was 11 to her graduating high school, and that was really tough.
Yeah.
She wasn't family. her aunt was my home cleaner, and her parents were in street rehab, kind of like they were on the streets. And
Yeah.
so she comes from the other side of the track, basically.
Yeah.
And we helped raise her. That's a whole nother cool story that happened. She was the first to graduate in her class, in her family from high school. And anyways, learned a lot like that, diving in at an 11-year-old with challenges.
Yeah.
But I've really tried to encourage people that are maybe younger or, looking at getting married, or they're single. And I'm like, you got to ask the big questions, especially now.
Yeah.
And I just go out on a limb. I think being bold for Jesus is the number one thing that I try to, that I feel like is important for me to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't make it like I'm going to shove this down your throat.
Yeah.
But I try to find ways, and I ask the Lord to give me opportunities where I can bring it up as if it's a fun thing to talk about.
Yeah.
And people seem to be interested in talking about stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important that people, well, especially like if there's people that are looking to get married, and I'm always like, do they know Jesus?
Yeah.
And they're like, and I'm talking about ladies that are in their 40s, 50s,
Yeah.
that are single, divorced, and they're talking to another guy, and I'm like, does he know Jesus? Because you're telling me you're a Christian.
Yeah.
Because I've already had these kind of conversations, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just, and none of them have ever been coming back to me like, oh yeah, we've talked about that. And they're like, oh wow, I don't know. I'm like, you're talking about marrying a man, and you're a Christian that you say you are, which I trust that you are.
Yeah.
And, we talk about the Lord, and yet you haven't had him talk about the Lord. Like, it's so important that people are together with the same spirits, I think. Mm-hmm. And I know when I was not looking to get married, but knew that I was going to be, that I wanted to be married again, that I wanted to be in a good relationship. I didn't want my marriage to be my experience of what marriage could be.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I remember being very specific in my prayer. And I said, Lord, I want someone that has the same heart for you that I have for you.
Yeah.
That was my ultimate prayer. Mm-hmm. And then I said, well, it'd be great if he was around my age, if he had a job that he loved, so that, he's
happy,
doing something
fulfilled.
that he is fulfilled in.
Yes.
Like, I don't need it. I'm not a gold digger. I've never been. I could have been out in L.A. No, that's not where I'm at. And then I thought, well, okay, I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe someone that doesn't have children, because I didn't want to date someone with kids. I love kids, but I didn't know I couldn't have a baby at the time.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to get in a relationship and then it be about the kids always.
Yeah.
And then the ex and all that. I was
Yeah.
just like, I just want a normal, there's got to be a guy out there that's similar age, that loves the Lord like I love the Lord, and is single and doesn't have kids. I'm like, it's not too hard. And there's Brad.
Yeah.
And there was Brad. So he gives this, it says, delight yourself in the Lord. He gives you the desires of your heart, right? Mm-hmm. And I got the desires of my heart. I have a man that loves the Lord like I love the Lord, in a different way, but he does. We are equally yoked.
Yeah.
And we say every day, we're like, man, and marriage is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. Mm-hmm. And you think you have two people that are equally yoked and able to we both have been raised in the church. We've been raised with the Bible. We love the Lord Jesus. He's our Savior. And just sit and do devotional time with each other, because, I told you how our gifts are so different. Like,
yes.
It's challenging.
Yeah.
Marriage is just all the way around, but we are able to compliment one another more than not, mm-hmm. and appreciate one another, and everything that's going on in the world right now. Like, we may not see eye to eye on everything.
Yeah.
But the big things, yes, but there's some smaller things that we're like,
yeah.
We're not even talking about that because it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
It's not salvation, right?
Yeah.
is the grid going to go out or not the grid going to go out? I mean,
Yeah.
do we have enough gas for our generator? And is that even going to matter? Because is the generator going to create people to come to our house? And then, we have to fight off people with guns. Like, I mean, all of that. Right?
Yeah.
That's a whole other
Yeah.
topic. But
Yeah.
I don't know. You asked about the things that I learned. I don't know if I'm continually learning. I am a learner at heart. I love to learn. And that's one of the things I loved about the competitions. You asked what I didn't like, but what I did like was I loved learning.
Yeah.
And I loved learning to be better version of myself, to learn to do things more, and then how to be a better business person in my scope of business, and working with promoters all around the world and putting my business plans together and those kind of things, building out my career. Like, I loved all of that. So I love to learn. So I'm hungry to learn how to encourage people better in faith and fitness.
Yeah.
In both.
Yeah.
Because we all need both.
Yes.
Just get started. Let's just get started. Like, quit wasting time.
Yeah.
God doesn't need you to go clean yourself up.
Yeah.
He will clean you.
Yeah.
And you don't need to be fit to start working out.
Let's do it. Yeah. Start somewhere.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
And with the nutrition, like, you fall off and you eat something bad, just get back in it.
Yeah.
Don't go
off the wall,
and forget it. I can't do it.
So tell people, because you have your podcast,
Monica Brant Show.
Yes. So, and where's it? It's on.
It's just on YouTube right now.
It's on YouTube. Okay. Tell.
I do have a podcast started. I just haven't got it. It's not updated.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's the Monica Brant Show too, but it just hasn't been updated much. But
okay.
Yeah, I've got I have 4 or 5 years of interviews with some of the big name people in the industry and nutritionists and
yeah, all kinds of fun stuff.
Really good stories, yeah.
Yeah.
Ronnie Coleman was my first one.
I love that, Ronnie. I just saw we went to the Arnold this year, so listen to them. I always go to the one where they're all talking like
the seminar. Yeah,
yeah, the seminar, because I enjoy that. I just like hearing the stories and stuff. Yeah. So, so you're on there, and then the website, you can find your books and stuff.
MonicaBrant.com.
And that's where all your...
So it's funny, I put my 8x10s back on there, and I'm starting to sell them again.
Nice. There you go. So you can go get them.
Sold some posters and stuff, and yeah. So, so MonicaBrant.com, and my ebook will be there first, and then the program and everything it's all there. So people can sign up there to get on my update list. And
perfect.
And then I do devotionals on Substack.
Okay.
So you just go to Substack and Monica Brant on Substack.
Perfect.
And I've got over 2 years of devotionals there. Some podcast called my Radiant Living podcast, and then the written devotionals. And they're it's called Minutes with Monica.
Yeah.
Because I try to keep it like a 8-minute read, 9-minute, 6-minute read.
Yeah.
It's hard when your heart's like,
right? Yeah.
And it's like, it's
you
hard.
Go on. Yeah.
And then, you got to make sure it reads well. And, but I love that. And usually those happen after I've done my devotional, I've done my walk and read or whatever. And then I'm like, I've got to go write this down and get this out. Or how I thought about this scripture or something. There's one in there talking about my husband's dirty socks.
I love it.
Because I remember he used to, cowboy come in and just pull them off, and they'd be like all wadded inside out, and I'm like, and God, one time I was, and I'd asked him, I'm like, can you please not take your socks off? Because I do the laundry because I like to help, and he doesn't mind do his laundry. So anyways, so I'm like pulling the socks out, and I'm like, and I was kind of irritated because he was not pulling his socks out, and I didn't want to reach my hand in there, and all that, it was but I felt the Lord tell me, you should be thankful that he has feet, that he can ride, that he can walk. And I just felt this conviction. God doesn't condemn us. He convicts us, right? And I just had this little conviction of, I need to be praying over his feet and thanking the Lord for his feet and his dirty socks, because he has dirty socks that I'm able to, it was just this whole paradigm shift.
Yeah.
So anyways.
That's a lot of things, though, in life, like you think about something and get so irritated, and like one thought can switch that, because it is about how we look at it, So anyways, well, anything else that we didn't mention? we kind of hit the gamut.
Right?
We're good at that, yeah. So, but is there anything else that you wanted to share or say before we wrap it up?
No. Just get started, people.
Get started.
Yeah.
All right,
Stay
and you're
fit, love life.
yeah. You're. I was gonna say our
Brilliantly.
quote this time is how Monica signs her pictures. So say it again.
Stay fit and love life.
Stay fit and love life. All right. Well, thank you again. This has been a real honor, and I appreciate you being
Thanks,
here.
Jodelle. It's been
Yeah.
fun already.
All right.